All right. Hi everyone. So prep time is almost up, but as per usual, welcome to the Open Grand Final round of IVED 2025. Um, Before we start with the round, we're going to be announcing the stellar panel of judges who are going to be judging the Open Final between ATMA A in affirmative and UNPRI A in negative. Next slide. The first panelist is the member of our CAP, Bonfilio Dazzle, with the achievements of semifinalist of Glass School 2024 and Vienna Free Worlds, quarterfinalist of Penn Free Worlds, Vienna Free UDC, Augmented Australs, and all the other achievements that are a lot, including partial double of the finalists of Worlds 2025. Next, another panelist, we have an independent judge, Jody Saputra Lubis from Telcom, with the achievements of being a best institutional judge and Pratama semifinal judge in KDME, being a CA of Amuse, Thomas Day and Kansas 2024, IA of NSCC Bantan, and other achievements that Jody has achieved. Next, another panel, we have Kezia Asensio from UI, champion and third best speaker of IVA 2022, overall best speaker of IVA 2020, co-fourth best judge of IVA 2023, ESL quarters of Belgrade Worlds, and open quarterfinalist of AVP 2021. Next, we have another panelist, Manda Bagaskara from Unila, with the achievements being cap of IVET 2024, which is IVET last year, grand final judge of NUDC 2024, gold grand final judge of Bloxbridge Worlds 2023 and 2024, open semifinalist of Orgamentum Open, and open semifinalist of NUDC 2021. Next, we have another panelist, Maida Rahmania from UGM, with being the second runner-up of IVET 2022 and Alpha WE 2023, EFL Grand Finalist of ABP 2021, EFL Semi-Finalist of Nepal Australs 2021, Cap of IRAC and IDN KDP, and Best Independent Judge and co-8 Best Judge of IVET last year. Next. Another panelist is Rain Arthur from Trisakti, with the achievements being first runner-up of Tradition, second runner-up of Atma Open, Smash, Lovecom, INT Open, and INT Debate Cup. Top 10 Best Speaker of Tradition, Code KDME, Open Launch, UDC, and ERI 2020, Invited Judge of LDB, and Asawi. Next. We have another panelist, Regina Stephanie Wisana from Venus, being the first runner-up and 8th Best Speaker of HBT 2024, invited Novice Grand Final panel of Novice 2024, 8th Best N1 Judge of NUDC 2024, Breaking Judge and Novice Grand Final panel of Japan British Parliamentary, and Best In-Depth Judge and Grand Final panel of Orgamentum IV 2024. Next. We have JJ as a member of CAP from Undip, being the co-6 Best Judge of Novet 2024, Invited Judge of Malaysia International Worlds, IVA 2023, and Novet 2022, Grand Finalist at 9th Open Best Speaker of NUDC 2022. Next, we have in chair Upi Abdurrahman from ITB, being the overall Best Judge of IVA 2022, Grand Final Chair of Princeton IB, Looms Pre-ADP, KO Open, and NSCC, and Grand Final Judge of Western IB, Street Debate Open, UADC, and more than 50 other tournaments across the globe. That wraps up the panel of judges that are going to be judging in the Open Grand Final round. Before we start with the round, I'm going to pass the floor to Upi as the chair to proceed with the Grand Final. Good luck for all the Grand Finalists.
All right. Thanks very much, Justin, for the introductions, and thank you very much, everyone, for attending this Grand Finals. We are at the peak of the tournament, and this is the Open Grand Final of IVED Jawa Barat 2025. Before proceeding with the introductions on the judges, can I just check that Team Affirmative is indeed here?
Here and complete.
Great. And Team Negative?
Negative is here.
Wonderful. And in that case, then before also moving to the introductions, thank you very much, observers, for being here. Could you please rename your name to become identifiable, just so that everybody's comfortable? So names like Wushu, for example, or the nameless observers, please change them so that you are able to be known by the people within this Zoom again, just for equity and comfort. In that case, I will ask the member of the panel to introduce themselves to the room. And judging in the grand finals, my name is Upi, as I mentioned previously. Can I just go around the room, just mention your name and whatever it is that you'd like to share to the house? So yeah, in alphabetical order, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Basil. You can pronounce please. But yeah, address the panel as a whole. Good luck for the grand final, everyone. Woo!
Okay, all right. Hello everyone. This is Jody from Telkom. Good luck for the final.
Hi everyone, Kezia from UE, she, her pronouns. Looking forward to the speeches.
Hello, Manda here. All the best for the round.
Hi, Maida from UGM here. Good luck for everyone.
Hi, Ben from Kutakti. Congrats for making final and all the best.
Hello, Regina from Venus. Congratulations for making it to final and good luck.
Hi, JJ here. Best of luck for both teams. Thanks, giving it back to Kaupi.
Thanks so much, everyone. As usual, the grand final will use the Australs format. So this is a reminder for everyone to please employ timing devices to ensure that substantive speeches are within 8 minutes and reply speeches are within 4. Please do not exceed the double dings by much. And please respect equity rules, I guess. I think that goes without saying. That would be it when it comes to the introduction. The motion that we're going to be debating is the very fun, depending on how you define fun, that we should have faith in humanity. Short, sweet. Definitely looking forward to the debate and wishing this to be a wonderful grand finals to end this very prestigious affair with. So good luck for all of the speakers in the round. And without further ado, I'd like to call upon the first affirmative speaker to speak and open the debate. Here.
Hi, can I just confirm if I'm audible and visible?
Yes, to both.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before I start my speech, I just want to take a very, very quick moment to just appreciate not just how fun this tournament has been so far, but just how fun my 8 years in competitive debating has been so far. I'm glad that I'm ending it on a very, very high note, such as the IVED Grand Finals. And yeah, to the community that has given me some of the happiest moments of my life, I hope that this speech does it justice. Beautiful emotion as well. Pronouns are going to be he, him. Or first affirmative is also fine. We'll start when I start. In the darkest of times, hope cuts through. Hope is the light that lifts us out of darkness. And I want to posit, we push a world where no matter how bad things go, no matter what the circumstances are, people believe inherently that you are a good person, that other people are good people, that they are capable of being the best versions of themselves that they can be. 3 points to set up this debate. First, this is not a debate about what humans inherently are. This is a debate about the belief and what humans inherently should hold, and how that therefore influences the way that they interact with one another. We understand that many, many variables influence how people act on a day-to-day basis, and there are far too many variables to actually characterize that within just one substantive speech. But at the end of the day, we think that the assumption is that because you are inherently capable of things like kindness, growth, and just being a good person in general, this is what the belief that you hold on a day-to-day basis. But what does faith in humanity actually mean? I think this manifests in everyday life, not in believing that everyone is good, but that everyone can be good. This means that in all circumstances, you believe in giving people the chance to do so. This doesn't have to be in huge things. This can be within simply helping others, like giving your seat to an elderly person on the train, helping someone out when they fall, or listening to your partner who had a bad day at work. I think this faith not just manifests like so, but is taught, and therefore incentivized to grow constantly from the onset of your birth until in every circumstance in your life. This can be taught from your childhood by your parents who, when you are scared of interacting with others, who tell you that because others are inherently good, you have nothing to fear because we should have faith in humanity. This is taught from religion, not just through things like love thy neighbor, but by believing that people do bad, not because they are inherently bad, but because of circumstances that are outside of their control. This can be taught from school and education to let people correct their mistakes, even when they do make such, so they can learn to become better. This can be even in things as far as the way that you treat people who are criminals or just do bad things on a day-to-day basis, with the principle of rehabilitation as the default for a system, as opposed to believing that criminals are human filth that should be thrown out of society. The third and last point of setup: how is faith in humanity lost? Because this is obviously going to be the case that negative brings. I think negative will say that because people are capable of doing bad, and because so much evil exists in this world, you should not have faith. We tell you that despite evil being accessible to you, the fact that people do have faith is going to influence A, the way that you interact with one another, and B, the sort of expectation that you also put upon yourself. How is this also, therefore, going to influence the debate? Two arguments to prove that point. Number one, how faith in humanity changes the way you interact with one another. And number two, principally, why faith is just inherently important. Let's talk about interactions on a very quick note here. I think prejudice is inherently a lack of faith in humanity. It is when you label people as something else, as something negative, typically, based upon stereotypes that you may or may not have seen in your day-to-day life before, based on assumptions that you have, not just about certain groups, but just about certain characteristics of society and people. And I think what happens here is that you nitpick what you see in interactions because you do not look at the consciously good effort, which means that there is a confirmation bias that tells you that yes, person A is a part of this demographic. Doesn't just have to be racist, by the way. This can be like simply groups of people in society looking down on one another simply because they believe that those groups are lower than the other. I think this can also manifest in just simply the way you interact with on a day-to-day basis. Having prejudice and others believing that these groups are bad, or these groups are necessarily something that you should not waste your time with, or believing that you are risking yourself for a greater degree of harm when you interact with such people. What is the comparative here? I think people will interact with one another with the mindset that the person is inherently good. And the way this manifests is simply saying that people are more likely to forgive others for mistakes, give them resources and access to do better. Resources does not necessarily have to mean like money or a second chance. It can simply it does not have to mean money. It can simply be like second chances. And I think the biggest likelihood of this debate, therefore, is proven that because you have that faith, you not only see the good in others, but you are incentivized to let people prove that fact. I think on negative, not only are you pushed to be cautious, you also only let your guard down once you are reassured that humans can be treated as such. I think this means that the prejudice will still influence the way that you interact with others, and therefore there is still an active harm in preventing you to actually treat people with respect and dignity that they deserve. But I think a second layer to this is that because people also inherently understand that others have faith in them, you're also incentivized to do better to sort of prove that. So this acts as a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that because you understand that societally and like and normatively, people believe in inherent goodness. People believe that you yourself are capable of doing good. I think it means that when you're faced with the opportunity, the choice to do good or bad, you are more likely than not incentivized to do good, not just because of existing societal norms and status quo, but simply because you feel like you're letting people down if you act bad or you do the bad thing or you take the wrong choice. This looks like probably in the option of cheating in tests or something like that. You might feel that because people believe I'm capable of second chances, because I can fix my mistakes later on down the line, I can make mistakes here and now, and that's something that's fine. So I'd rather choose honesty. I think this is what the most likely manifestation, because again, this can manifest in very, very small ways up until larger scales. But at the end of the day, because it changes the sort of paradigm in the way that you interact with one another, this is therefore going to be much better and incentivizing you to do better, as well as incentivizing others to let you do better. But I think secondly, on a very quick note of principle, why is faith inherently important? I think this also exists in the sense of like religious norms and religion as a whole has and sort of pushes the idea of faith to prevent the existence of pessimism, because you don't know what happens at the end of your life, but you therefore are believed, or you are taught to believe, that there is an afterlife, that if you do good constantly, you will reach afterlife that is beneficial, i.e., heaven. I think we want to have faith in order to believe that things can get better, that there is that light at the end of the tunnel, and how life principally has a purpose. And I think this exists in our case too, but even better. However crazy the world goes, no matter how bad things are, you always have a mindset that things can get better for yourself and others. So you're also incentivized to not only, interact, which is the first argument, but you're also incentivized to just look at the good things in life. You will inherently become a more glass half full kind of person. And I think this is principally very important because this is just a fundamentally better outlook of life that we prove here in comparison to just believing that thing, not just the glass is half empty, but just believing that because people are evil, you need to therefore be careful. You need to therefore be cautious of how the way you interact with others, and therefore you end up becoming pessimistic and preventing yourself from seeing how good people inherently can be. Yes, evil happens in real life. The moment I saw what Israel is doing, I almost lost faith in humanity. But just the other day, I saw posts about how people got to eat chicken in Gaza for the first time in over 1 year. And that is how I regained that faith in humanity. When we prove that humans can and will do better, if you have faith in them, I think at the end of the day, it is more than worth a shot to give people that faith. More than proud to affirm.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much, first affirming speaker, for those very kind remarks. To open the case in the negating side of the House, I'd like to call upon the first speaker to speak. Here.
Right, just to check if I'm audible.
Yep, you are.
All right, cool. Basically, everything I said is not my personal opinion. It's just for the purpose of competitive debating. Starting the speech in 3, 2, and 1. I think one important clarifications before we open negative case is basically that, yeah, in negative, this is the setup. This is how we want you to see the world. We want you to see the world with cynicism. That is to say that you see that people do things because they are pushed by mere self-interest. Even if people do good to others, it is still within their interest to do so. Basically, altruism is just an illusion. People do good because it makes them feel good. This is how we want you to see the world, right? Basically, also, we just prefer a world that, yeah, as opposed to side affirmative, people act based on cynicism, right? Basically, you prioritize your individual self, and even if you see others do good, you still put a bit of skepticism within it, right? But B, we also want you to be realistic, right? See the world with realism. Basically, we want you to be looking at things rationally. How does it looks like? Meaning that if you see people do good, basically you want to see the proof first and you want to see the effort first, which means that even if you put faith on someone, you want results first before you give that faith to them, right? But B, we also want people to not see quality of goodness as something assume as inherent within any individual or community. So basically, as a person, you do not assume yourself is a good person. You can see yourself as very selfish, but also that you also don't assume other people as inherently good as well. Basically, everyone will be very realistic in assessing the world, right? Basically, this is the very contradictory to affirmative, as on their side, people are a lot easier to believe that other people is good. But then I think I have several clarifications, right? Note that this doesn't mean inside negative, people will inherently do bad things, right? Kindness and growth still exist, but in negative, it is just what we see as something not inherent. It is very situational based on the nurture of the person. Hence, you should always be in constant state of awareness. This also means that if prejudice exists inside negative, we believe it happens due to historical precedents. We say this is just a natural instinct of humans as a living being trying to secure their life and not get killed, right? But though that, you need to remember one thing, inside negative, we didn't really support you being a bigot or racist. We say racism is bad thing. It happens due to irrational reasonings. Hence, it's not realistic. This is not what side negative want people to incline to. We want you to be realistic, be rational in assessing people's kindness, even if humans do good. Yeah, it's because we still within their self-interest. I think rebuttals will be integrated within. I think I have two discussions here. First, basically, I'm just going to talk about the past, like why then at the end of the day we believe that inherently nature of humans is very self-oriented, which inclined to evil. But yeah, basically that's also the reason why you should not put faith in humanity. But second, basically we're going to talk about the harms of having such an ideals. I think going to the first principle then, I think it is very evident from history and current events of humanity that our capacity to do harm often goes beyond our capacity for kindness and growth, right? This is very evident due to several things. I think things like what Vinay have told you. We have wars in Palestine with all of its genocides and its brutality. In the past, we still have colonialism with all of its slavery and etc. Proves to you that humans sometimes kick away compassion and puts their interests first. You do slavery with caring about others because it is profitable for you, right? Or even in modern instances of economic exploitations, such as existence of modern slavery or even sweatshops everywhere around the world. Or you still have systemic oppression and widespread inequalities between different classes of people in a society in all around the world, no matter you're in the West or in the East. Or even you have still have, the current hot issue, exploitation of the environment and destruction of wildlife and the world. Basically, all of these things are done by humans, and this evidence showcase our recurring failures to prioritize empathy, justice, and kindness toward others, and instead everyone and every human just prioritize their own self-interest, right? Basically, this demonstrates that any individuals and societies frequently act out of their own self-interest, their greed, or malice rather than compassion. I think if we want to push the case of self-fulfilling prophecy, I think basically they also need to answer one thing. This kind of thing, like i.e. kindness toward other humans, has been very loudly taught by religions, philosophies, or etc. Why, despite all of these moral teachings existing in our human history, we still question why it hasn't really manifest and why at the end of the day the world is still burning with all the bad things humans do. Basically, that is the only question we have. But then moving on to the second part, which is basically the harms of having such an ideals, right? I think we have several harms. I think faith in humanity creates a false sense of security, which means that it leads individual to be harmed in the processes, right? Basically, trusting in the inherent goodness of people can lead you to ignorance, where you just believe that, people could and would on their ability self-regulate themselves. And basically, this just results in, insufficient checks from yourself against your surrounding. I think this might be explained with, basically bystander effect, right? Basically, you see someone doing bad, like someone is littering, this very petty crime in it. But then you just keep there because it's just something, might be situational. They might do good at the end because inherent humans are good. Or B, then I think faith and humanity also discourages skepticism, right? Hence, you are less incentivized to take active action to change the situation. I.e., if you have someone who hasn't paid your debt to you, you just wait for the goodwill to pay to you when it couldn't really, might be never happening, But then thirdly, I think this also means that because you put too much faith in humanity and not being realistic, you are very prone to disappointment. How does it look like? Look, the moment you expect consistent kindness from others because you believe that it is something inherent, you are more likely to experience emotional distress when you're encountering the betrayal, right? Or the injustice, i.e., you put good faith in someone and you believe that, they might never cheat. Well, turns out they cheat, and you're already disappointed. But because the idea that humans are inherently good, and you give them the second chance and being not realistic, there is a bigger possibility for you to get cheated again and get more, emotional distress in the processes. Meaning that you just eventually harming yourself by putting too much faith on others, right? And basically, the moment this already happens, what we are afraid of is that the moment you're not realistic from the beginning, you might be disillusioned in the processes, meaning that you might become a more apathetic person and you withdraw from the world because of the disillusionment, right? At least on side negative, the moment you see the world as something realistic, that everyone is put or do things because it's their own self-interest, you are more aware of your surrounding. You won't be believing people immediately, right? Meaning that even if disappointment exists, you can cope it since the beginning because you already have the idea that, look, you didn't have the idea that people are inherently good. You always put prejudice against them, not racism, by the way. Yeah. Basically, meaning that you are prepared to face such harsh realities of the world, right? Notice that all affirmative benefits of, self-fulfilling prophecy, like and all the kindness is very dependent on the chance you give people results in good output. But note that in this world we are gambling. We never know our investment will pay off or we paid off or not, right? You never tackle the possibility of something going wrong. Hence, the safest way to look into the world that is very, full of possibilities and probabilities is being realistic and not putting too much faith on others. We probably propose.
All right. Thank the speaker for those very fine remarks. To continue the affirming side's case in this grand finals, second speaker, please. Here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep.
Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Let's respond to the biggest case coming from First Negative, where they say that they prefer a world where everyone is just, they have some level of cynicism, right? People only do good because it benefits them, and that's the analysis that they're running by. So they say that if you want results, if you want to interact first and put effort into people, then you want the results first. Inherently, they just want being realistic in assessing people's kindness, right? Panels, I want you to imagine a world where you're not friends with the friends you have now. You're not partners with the people you have in your life right now, because even before you assess them fairly, you already judge their motives in approaching you. You constantly put their actions under a microscope, and your trust is put on a high pedestal that little to no one can access. Proving the harmful self-fulfilling prophecy that was already brought by Vinay, you are making sad humans, lonely humans on your side. This is very problematic since humans do need other people to survive. But comparatively, it's not like suddenly people on our side will suddenly be naive and just let every evil thing slide. People will still be able to assess whether the people in their lives are good or not, because that's just how we live our life, right? By assessing the harms and just take like the good things that can benefit us as well. We can cut out people that are bad for us, but the faith comes in when you're able to open up again after the damaging loss that you've gone through, right? Meet new people that can be better for you, that can do wonders for you and them, is the delta that we're offering. We can always paint that the world is evil and that everyone we meet on the streets can have evil incentives to do harm to us, etc., etc. But life still goes on. So if Negative was able to portray a world that is just so bleak, so pessimistic, so gray, and no hope in recovering, how then will the humans live on their side without this said faith? And I think that becomes the biggest delta on our side, right? Because we tell you that in order for you to keep living your life properly, in order for you to at least live a somewhat comfortable life without you having to look into other people's intentions for you, without you being too judgmental, without you being like overly scrutinizing over people's actions, and without other people doing the same to you, then you inherently need this faith to survive in a world that's already so bleak and like so pessimistic on negative side, right? So if they cannot answer how then the humans will live on their side, live, not survive, live on their side without this sad faith, then I think it's clear what we're trying to offer here that is exclusive on our side, right? But I want you to think about this even further, which is my extension. What happens when you exactly don't have that faith in humanity? What exactly is the biggest harm in this debate? I think the biggest takeaway from my life so far is that humanity can be beautiful. I see humanity through the people, through beautiful interactions I have with my friends. I see humanity through progress in our social movements, our little efforts locally, but also globally. I see humanity through the love I feel from my family. But I also see how humanity can be disappointing at times, like we all know, with world leaders that are selfish enough to trade off human lives for some practical benefit, pragmatic like power, etc. But I want to ask the very important question of what would happen if we just stopped? If we realize that it's not going anywhere, why can't we just stop fighting? Because it clearly doesn't go anywhere. Stop having faith in improving human lives and effectively just give up in any efforts because, quote, humanity has failed us one too many times. What will be the difference this time? I'll tell you what happens. Social movements will take a big halt under the logic of nothing I do can salvage how bad humanity has become, under the logic that however many times we progress, we still cannot trust our out groups, our potential allies. We would just rather not take the risk in trusting humanity again because they failed us one too many times, right? But this also means that we'd be stopping progress because we've turned too pessimistic to even go on with the efforts that we have set up for ourselves, right? Another aspect that I want to focus on, humanitarian aid for other humans that are struggling will also take a huge blow. Sure, you can argue that we can still donate once or twice, but we don't have faith in it improving, right? I'm not trying to say that suddenly on negative side that no humanitarian aid would happen, etc. I think that's a very worst case scenario. But let's say that people do still help, but just without that faith. It's exactly what is harmful, panels. You need faith to do something continuously, even when you don't see direct benefits from it. Why do you think people still have faith in religion, even when life throws so many challenges at them? Because that faith is comfort in and of itself. So then you have the will to continue with your life, continue fighting because you believe that it'll all work out in the end, and hoping that whatever I do would return to me, and that whatever efforts I do is actually making a difference in the very first place. This directly clashes with their point of I need to see results first before I put in efforts with my actions, right? Humanitarian aid needs constant effort. People not stopping boycotting certain brands in hopes of helping Palestine, even though as the regular person, we don't even know if our efforts are even working or not. But our faith does keep us going and to fight for the people that we know needs us as well. And I think that's what's beautiful about having faith in humanity, right? The only way we would know that we're failing as humans and our only wake-up call is because we had that faith in the very first place. It's because I know that this is not our full capacity, that we're failing as humans that should be compassionate towards other humans, that should be able to give aid to the people in need. And when we stop doing that is when we can characterize the fact that we are losing as a humanity, or like we're losing as humans, and that is somehow justifiable for us to completely lose faith in humanity. I think the prerequisite for you to say that we failed as humans, or like that humanity is not worth trusting anymore because of that sad faith in the very first place, right? But I also want to remind you how much that faith in and of itself has brought us to the point where a lot of good has been done for the world, even in times of crisis like this. We can say that yes, the war happening all around the world is really, really, really bad. But the only way we can also save fellow humans in like times of war is through the humanitarian aid that cannot exist or will not exist as well without the faith that humanity can get better, or without that faith in humanity that humanity will somehow pull through and help these people in the very first place. If everybody then is just so pessimistic, like what Negative has already said, right? Being cynical towards other people, or like just you want to see the results first before you put effort into them because somehow that's a quote good metric to have as people, then it's going to do two harms. Firstly, on your interpersonal life, when you want to interact with other people but you have to be constantly skeptic of them, shutting you down from like any possible good relationship that can come into your life. But even if you do have already relationships in your life, you would always put them under a microscope, judging every action that they do and questioning their motives of being good to you, as if people cannot just be good for the sake of being good. But this also contradicts directly with their thought of people only want to do good because it benefits them. But secondly, it also causes severe like damages to our world in general, because a lot of the things that we're doing in hopes of like reforming the world, reforming the way people think, reforming the way society thinks, runs under the prerequisite of us having faith that humanity can change in the very first place. Take away this faith and what you have: a bleak society that doesn't fight for injustices, a bleak society that doesn't help other people in times of need, a bleak society that is very individualistic to the point where only the privileged survive and the poor gets poorer, even worse than what we have currently in status quo, right, panels? So with all of these reasonings and even analyzing as to why it's going to be beneficial for you as a person in your daily interactions, how it's going to benefit you when you have faith in humanity and the people around you that are also humans. But secondly, I think it's going to be a better world overall when we continuously have faith in humanity, because as humans, unfortunately, that is what keeps us living. Because in the times of like bleak depression and like grayness in the world, that's the only thing that we can hope for and thrive for. That's why vote for a world where the humans want to continue living and have faith in each other. Vote for affirmative.
All right, thank you very much, Speaker, for those very fine remarks. And to continue the negating side of the House's case, second speaker, please.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay. Try to open my camera. If I'm laggy in any way, please do tell me. Yeah, all the point that I have doesn't represent my own thoughts. I will start my speech in 3, 2, just to clarify that believing and not believing in humanity in our world does not entails us to just be pragmatic. That is just one of the quality of why people would still do certain good action and interacting with others. In Alvin point, it's not the entire contention toward what kind of interaction that other people have in our side. Just to clarify as well, the preference that we have in status quo look like into believing that should be and more enough proof and effort that is put by others when it comes to getting the trust that we have in the good in them, but also the quality of goodness are not assumed with an individual or community. So a person like ourselves, me myself, do not assume that I am an inherently good person, that I don't assume that I have all the goodness in me to be able to change just because, and I don't assume that other people can be inherently good as well. So there is a contention, the characterization that they need to take. They cannot just play that this is about believing in humanity and the opportunity to that without dealing with the fact and consequences that Alvin has mentioned in regard to why the consent and the excesses of the outside world are not always aligned to what the current belief that you have as a person. I am sad with how many excuses people make toward clearly bad action done by the Republican parents who keep voting against their gay daughter rights because they have goodness in them, because they believe in the opportunity that their parents might changes and they don't cut relationship with these very toxic sources, right? I'm also sad with the fact that we feel enough and satisfied with the existence of how people in Gaza can just go back to their home just because that is a good enough status quo compared to the previously. I don't think that should restore our faith in humanity, and I don't think that should be able to allow us to feel settled with the existence of the humanity to begin with. I'd like to clarify as well that incentive to do good does not come at the thoughts and faith in humanity. There is other opposite value like morality, individual affinity in doing good, or just general sense to maintain social order like norma kesopanan or social, for instances, that exist to ensure that our society did not fall in shambles. We oppose what happened in the world, like what happened in Gaza, not because we believe in the good of the people or the opportunity that they can be the kindest human being in Palestinian, but because of the hatred we have with oppressiveness. This can exist without the existence of our faith in humanity, right? So that's not the benefit they can just go up. But I'd like to clarify as well, is prejudice is a product of lack of faith, because that's the content in first affirmative. 4 point under this. 1, cultural formation of prejudice, racism, and discrimination did not come from the lack of faith, but the existence of superiority complex to your own quality. This is not the common product of lack of faith, but the lack of proper understanding and education, and the fact that you feel like your own people are the best human in the world. But second, now we know that it is not our burden to defend this argumentation. How should the debate break down within the discrimination and prejudice discussion? I think the distribution of faith are not equal among others. So just because that you have this in the side of affirmative does not mean that people will believe in it equally and practice it equally. So the debate does not fiat that everyone will inherently practice this similarly, right? In the practice of this, within the humanity that are used to be able to find this oppression are more likely being pushed to be able to believe, because there is a lackness and there are a lot of challenges for them to be able to do so. These are constantly used to prevent others to feel bad, to anticipate that there are bad things that are going to happen to them. The case-by-case example to this is when your white friend are constantly threatening or like feeling disgusted to your presence as a people of color, and you as a person are expected to be bigger person, where you shouldn't feel bad, where you the practical expectation to that is that you should treat them better, or even worse, you should educate them because you know better. This is immoral expectation and burden to be put toward minority, and that is likely to exist because the prerequisite of changes on your side of the house is patience. The patience of having to prove that other can change and they can be better person and humanity, and that takes expectation for this person to collaborate, to be able to change and actively try and partake in the education of those people instead of leaving them and demolishing the existence of those particular relationship to begin with. So this is proof the main preemption that they have, but also provide a more complex interaction between human beings that will happen within the world. So what is the difference between the world that assume the good in humanity versus a cynical one, right?
Two things. One, the assumption of good internally will access under affirmative. In general sense, affirmative want a betterment of a person that access within their own capability without necessarily practically pursuing to that, right? The thought of how we are good and we just haven't met the correct opportunity, or we haven't just meeting the correct condition for us to become a better person. So this is not a productive state of mind, because in order for a human being to be better, there should a certain doubt if they have done enough, right? If they have the correct quality for them to become a good person to begin with. So the constant distrust and this particular cynicism, even to ourselves, is what is required for you to become a better human. So you would do more, you would prove more in order for other people to validate and accept the constant goodness of you. The assumption of good in others is also excess. This prevents us from acting on our self-interest. There are two assumptions that affirmative have. One, people won't interact anymore because we believe that others are bad, therefore we will not want to, chime in with them. But this is not true, because social circumstances force us to interact, from job responsibility, inherent needs, or even having a certain hobby and liking to things like debate, for example. This disproves the PM point on loneliness. But two, self-interests are not always equal with harmful thoughts on other, which evidently not the base on previous assessment I have made on prejudice, right? So what does it look like essentially on our side? Within that, you take your time to trust. The constant state is not you will not trust other at all, but you take times to be able to see that other people are a good human being, because you don't just believe in the quality. You see action. You view the cynicism as a constant ability for you to be able to evaluate if they benefit you or if they harm you, right? Because it's not easy, and the common expectation from individual and communities to prove, then the key point to that is that people will try to do more and more because they would like to be able to fulfill the social standard to be qualified as someone who can contribute good and produce good action, right? Because that validation do still access regardless of having faith to humanity or not. But what was the harms on their side? Within the context that Alvin has established, that we are not living in kindest world possible, people are subjected to constant feeling of dissonance under affirmative. In worst case scenario, we both have disappointed human being, at least in our side of the house, where you are hopeless, you do not feel any sadder than you already is. In our side, when bad things happen, like Trump is bad, you as a minority do not feel surprised with what he did. You are not surprised, and you don't feel more grievances because we are done grieving. But on the other side of the house, when you put faith on other people that you feel like he might change or the voter might change, there are more devastation. There are comparative of level in a way that you provide this particular grievances due to the expectation. Final extension, right? Why you have better solution in regard to a social movement. Not having hope in humanity does not mean we do nothing to the constant oppression toward our rights. And I think that it's better on our side of the house, because in our side, we don't depend our solution by a human based solution. We make changes that are more radical, sure, that are less constant to the fate of humanity. But within the idea of this are created because we don't trust, right? We need to make sure that there is an active solution that is enacted, practical solution that is enacted. And sometimes this is better because a lot of things when it comes to humanity and the world are uncertain. In their side, human-based solution is what they want to go to. So you wait for the rich to distribute wealth, or you wait for, let's say, the white privilege to vote for a people of color rights, because that is the opportunity that you think about. So this is this is inherently a worsen type of evaluation. We should be able to win within this evaluation because we managed to be able to make a much more exclusive comparison, differentiation toward how in the world and the setup would look like, but more importantly, whether you have a better humanity in our side of the house, regardless of the faith, more than proud to oppose.
All right, we thank that speaker for those very fine remarks. Now moving on to the final substantive from the affirmative side, I'd like to call upon the third speaker. Here.
Hello, I'm audible?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think there are two clashes that is clear in this debate, right? So firstly is which faith is more important, right? Is the faith faith in cynicism or being realistic. And then secondly, the quality of life and interaction on both sides, right? So I will come into my first into the first class on the importance of faith or the importance of cynicism. I think when they say that they need cynicism so you can have a better person, so you can be a better person, so you can progress in your life and be able to help other people. And this is firstly untrue because growth can still happen without cynicism, right? As humans is always striving to be better and they are always striving to be able to develop themselves. They want to be better. They want to be seen as someone who is better and someone who is a good person in society in the end of the day, right? So we don't think that cynicism is very important for this. But then let's flip this. We think that actually cynicism is taking this away from people because when you see that you are cynicistic with yourself, you are pessimistic within yourself, you see that, oh, I cannot be anyone. I am this. This is the extent that I have. This is the limit that I have. This is the limit that other people have. This is the limit that I give to other people. This is the limit of faith, for example. This is the limit of goodness that I have in other people, right? So what does it mean then? It means you have the cynicism, when you have this pessimistic view of other people, it means that you put a limit on them, not actually trying to understand that other people have different limits, that other people have different way of actually developing and actually be a better person themselves, right? To be able to be benevolent time. That's why it's worse on their side, right? But then thirdly, even if then they did cynicism on their side to be a better person, we don't think that this cynicism in the long run will be a sustainable thing in the end of the day, right? Because we think that with this cynicism, in the end of the day, you will still need a small faith in humanity to be able to do this kind of things, to be able to treat other people in the end of the day as a better person, right? Because when they say that they will take time to be able to trust other person, we think that there is still a faith in humanity because you still have faith in them to as a you still have faith that they are a good human being, but you are just waiting for them in the end of the day, right? So we don't think that's a bold stand for them to take. We think that that's why it's already a very shaky stance from them, right? But then other than that, they also come to this debate by saying that you can do good things even if you lose faith in humanity, right? Because you have morality, you have a nurturance, you have belief in social order. And this is firstly untrue, like because Vinay has literally told you and explained to you why when you lose faith in humanity, you are more likely to act more pessimistic and indifferent, which leads to confirmation bias, for example, and etc. and other things, right? But then secondly, other than that, we don't think that morality and believing in social order will actually incentivize you to do more good things, right? To do better, to be a better person, right? Because you see that being a good citizen is enough for you. You see that paying your taxes is enough for you. But you don't go out of your way to actually help other people. You don't go out of your way to actually help the people in Gaza, for example, to donate for their cause, for example. So this also topples down their idea of how they can still help other people, right? Because you see that the bare minimum is enough for you. You don't actually go out of your way to do more things, to see that some things are more beautiful when you give effort to it in the end of the day, right? But then even if that you say that morality is going to that way, for example, that social order is that big or that or have that big scale of an impact, and we don't think that this is something that is better on their side because with the faith in humanity, what is exclusive from it is that this is something that is constantly going, right? Just to be on your faith, on your belief until the end of the day on humanity. What does it mean then? It means that it will always give you hope. It will always give you that incentive, it will give you that push towards this humanity on the day. But on their side, then, this push are coming in and coming out because they see that when it's convenient for them, they will use it. But when it's not convenient for them, on where they are hurting them, they don't use it in the end of the day, right? So we don't understand then why in the long run this will be better on their side, right? So that's why we have already proven to you that faith is important in the end of the day, right? Because it gives you a better view on how the world works, and it also gives you a better idea on how go in the end of the day, right? So that's why it's very important. But then on to my second class then, on how the quality of life and interaction should be. I think when they say that this faith in humanity creates a false sense of security, for example, because you are literally gambling. It creates more disappointment. You feel more emotional distress. I think firstly, this is unlikely for people to do in the first place, right? We don't understand why people are likely to disappoint you, why people are likely to do bad things to you when they are exactly morality and a sense of order in society in the first place, right? And this proof then that their own case is already very shaky civilization. But other than that, we think that there are still mechanisms for these people in the end of the day. And this mechanism, such as laws, cancel culture, or even rally, or even when you talk about something on social media, on Black Lives Matter, on Gaza Lives Matter, this mechanism that actually prove that humanity is always fighting for the greater good of society, as all of these mechanisms are important to protect humanity, to protect us in the end of the day, right? So this proof that faith in humanity can go in many forms. But then, secondly, disappointment and ignorance, they will actually be worse manifested on their side, right? As now, they are literally hurting other people actively, whether they are good or not, because they are constantly testing, quote unquote, these people for their kindness. They are constantly testing them as how they good they are. And something bad, right? Because in the end of the day, you will feel a feeling of guilt of what you do when you realize that these people are just another good human being and being genuine. This feeling of guilt is very likely to happen because when you try to test these people, it's something that comes from a prejudice that's come from your experience in the past, right? So you put this experience, you put this prejudice on these other people. And when those prejudice doesn't come in place, you feel another feeling, and that feeling is guilt. And the of guilt then happens when you feel that you are hurting the other person, or what you do isn't genuine and actually reciprocating their feelings, right? You feel that feeling of not you feel that feeling of ingenuineness, and in the end of the day you will literally hurt yourself more. But even if then they say that it creates more disappointment, then even if it's true, we don't think that this is okay, right? Because in the end of the day you are still creating, you are at least giving people the chances that they need, the chances that they are able to take, right? On our side, we give more chances to good people rather than on their side they are not giving chances to anyone else, right? So that's why on the practicality, then on the quality of life, we have also proven this point and win this point. So proud to affirm for the last time.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much, Speaker, for those very fine remarks. And as a final substantive from the negating side, but also within the grand final debate, third neg, please.
Check. Hi, sorry. Adjusting seating position with my teammate Tulo, and I will take off my headphone since there is no POI anyway. Okay. Am I visible and audible?
Yes to both.
Okay. In case during my speech there will be any choppiness, please try to interrupt me consistently so I will know there's something going on with my connection or microphone. Thank you. Setting my clock. 8 minutes, no POI. I will start my speech in 3, 2, once. Mahatma Gandhi once said that humanity is an ocean, and if a few drops are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. If you pay real close attention, it sounds very similar to rhetorics that is used by oppressors and bystanders. Often it is expressed as a reaction to valid grievances, such as hashtag not all men or hashtag blue lives matter. Negative agrees with PM that good prevails because people have faith. The question is, have faith in what? Because negative believes in hope, but not hope in humanity specifically. You can have faith in other things. You can have faith in luck. You can have faith in greater power, like how our first speaker have established. You can have faith in the universe even. What this greater power can grant humanity is the strength to go on, not due to hope in humanity, but despite the lack of it. So negative does not believe in faith over fear. We believe that doubt is the prerequisite to safety, and doubt is the mother of invention. That will be my opening. Now, let's tackle the setups then, just to clear up how things will look like in our site, and I will incorporate all the characteristics my previous substantive speaker have spoken of. Basically, in our site, the anti-faith in humanity will look like three things. First, in its active form, it will look like cynicism, where you as a person will always try to understand pretext, context, and intent, so you do not become too trusting and naive. Your first instinct to kindness is to balas budi. You will strive to be self-sufficient and strong for the sake of yourself and others, and does not rely on others' kindness. The second form, which is the neutral and more passive form, is stoicism, right? Where you make peace with disappointment and you cease to have expectation in other human beings, because you just know that you will be disappointed over and over again. The reason why these two things are important is because we all agree in this debate that knowledge is gathered faster by humanity than their wisdom could catch up. That's why we see senseless acts of cruelty done on the weak and the innocent. However, negatives still believe that internal change within humanity can be made, and humanity itself can do unprecedented things. But in doing that, caution comes first. Just like Martin Luther King said, we must accept finite disappointment but never lose infinite hope. So we think that in our side, even if now the act of love will be mingled with grief and realism, it will still grow, and perhaps it will grow even greater. So no DPM, by having faith in humanity, you will not be able to assess people's kindness or safeness. In the moment, you will be doubting your own cautiousness as potential bigotry, and you will take the path of martyrdom and being the bigger person in the grand and being the bigger person essentially. I don't think that they can cope the idea that you can still assess people's kindness. In the grand scheme of things, I will move on to the third form of anti-faith in humanity, which is the reserve form. It's distrust, it's fear. It manifests into close-offness, people creating enclaves, resistance, rejection to other groups. This will also respond directly to PM's idea of prejudice and confirmation bias, which, by the way, this is not just any irrational bias, it has the word confirmation attached to it. This is important because I'm going to discuss the three sources of prejudice that has been discussed in this debate. First source is ignorance, the case where love and faith works to reform it. If it's just ignorance, you just need to make them know and aware and understand. So the case of that one African-American man who single-handedly deconstruct an entire KKK clan by befriending the leader is a beautiful story, but it needs to remain as a choice, not a holier-than-thou stance that is enforced upon our kids and our future generations and upon the general people who already had their family lynched, for example. That will not be a fair expectation. So we can admire, but it's okay for a person to just be a girl, a boy, or a person, and admit that not everyone can just see death in the eye and go gentle into that good night. It is completely fine. The two sources of prejudice are not as reformable as how affirmative would like to believe, because they do not stem from humanity. They stem from the lack of it. They stem from animal instinct. The first thing is power, ego, and superiority. It's where you cease to see others as a person, but a hive-minded lesser animal or cattle. The second thing is trauma. That's why we allow victims of assault to fear parental figure or men who resemble people who assault them. We allow structurally disadvantaged people to fear authority figures, and we allow victim of war to be racist. That's why it's more understandable that the old Japanese grandma would be racist to foreigners because of what already happened to them. These two are acceptable defense mechanism in certain contexts, like how DLO has beautifully contextualized about marginalized community having to always be the bigger person. But in other cases, we admit it's just senseless cruelty and oftentimes crimes, some of which are reformable while the rest are beyond help. In the grand scheme of things, affirmative humans will invest on effort to reform. They never clarify to which extent and where do we draw the line, And if people are able to draw that line as individuals, if they are taught to have faith in humanity inherently. In interpersonal relationship, it looks like giving many chances that to the toxic partner or friend that is not toxic all the time, because that's how abuse works. Even if they're willing to work on themselves and go to therapy, you will stick by them through therapy, even if it holds your life back and eats you up on the inside. How many children are already hurt just because their parents give the other parent a chance? Structurally, it looks, we also believe in restorative justice and reforming conflicts, but there are lines to be drawn. Lessening on punishment due to berkelakuan baik or good behavior will be frowned upon in our side, because we believe that sins need to be paid at least formally. In affirmative, probably not. They will allow of that to happen because they believe this person is already doing good. What's next? Are they going to reform death row conflicts, which is either has hurt too many victims or is beyond repair? The line is never drawn. So last one, a priori clarification. PM's speech frames that faith makes all things possible, but the reality is possibility is a given. What increases probability is hard work, strategy, plus perseverance. And in rare occasion, dumb luck also play a part. The result of all of this is then falsely attributed to faith. What fuels that perseverance of all social movement that exists is the lack of faith in what humanity can do for you. DLO has illustrated this, so I will just expand on it. If movement happens due to faith in humanity, like the very best case, that they can also happen, and in their side, people will hope and people will do good, and they will somehow amass movement, they will less likely to have what we have, which is this negative. Want people to know that kindness is not inherent. We want people to know that kindness costs others. It takes a lot to be a kind person. Kindness is not an expected thing, and that's okay. And intent matters less than perseverance. What will it look like in affirmative? It's like parents thanking the universe for the work of your cancer doctor, oncologist saving their child. In our side, we will recognize that this is also a form of sacrifice for you to make yourself feel good, to make yourself have a good image, and that's fine, and you need to thank them as well. In our side, the gays that survived the AIDS epidemics in America hold the held lesbians to high regard for donating blood exclusively, and the queer movement at large holds the trans community at a high regard for all the things that they did in the past. When kindness and selflessness is put first, we forgot what we owe. Look at the state of the world right now, where people just expect the weak to be kind and to be selfless. A lot of people in the queer movement are becoming TERFs that actually hate and exclude trans people, for example, and how in the past, oh, just because we can survive, then the lesbians do not need the help of the gays. That's how the world will look like when you have faith in humanity, that people will persevere in spite of things, like they will just be kind and they will be okay. The best that faith can ever be is a self-fulfilling prophecy, falsely attributing achievement of other things to faith. And so do not go gentle into that good night and rage against the dying of the light. We back to oppose.
All right. Thank you very much, speaker, for those very fine remarks. And that is the end of the substantive half of the debate. For the reply portion, I'd like to, as usual, call upon the negative reply to go first.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay. Let's start. Okay, as this is the end of the debate, I'd like to thank my teammates that persevere with me this past 2 weeks. But specifically, I'd like to thank my cat Eris that manifests for us to be able to get to the grand final round. Thank you. Just set up my timer. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In short, they cannot just win by proving that plausibility of good exists, and we should not miss that, as there is no further consequences of missing this opportunity beyond an exclusive benefit of having to be able to benefit out of interacting with other people. We have responded to this, and we have provided comparative consequences on whether it's worth it or not. There is not much response given by the affirmative side of the house. Negative also has proof where the existence of possibility are always met by consequences, and we think it's an important take and context within the debate. Principally, their case sounded good because most of the things that affirmatives say have very little practical implementation to our world. They are defend to the good faith in human that is required and needed just because that is what make people have strength and faith to be able to move on. When this is not the best assessment you can make within the debate, because one, we have debunked to how inexclusive this point within the debate. We have explained the material and worldly reason as to why people will keep going on and have all this interaction interaction and benefit that they talk about. But Grace has beautifully depicted toward why is it exactly that faith are not an exclusive product of humanity, and we have explained to you toward why then human is not the most constant thing that you can be able to believe on. But two, we compare to which quality that human that that is more needed. That is to say, trust versus distrust. Within the comparative, their site did not really take into account the existence of threat or existence of lack of changes or the constant responsibility that is unfair to be imposed to the most vulnerable people at their best case scenario. So we don't understand toward why then this is a more valuable take toward the debate as opposed to negative. But the last comparative I'd like to make is within the big chunk of the debate, which is the quality of human, where we have better human and condition, right? I think there are two type of assessment that they try to do in the debate, which to say that you can be better, of course, because you can see good in others. But second of all, is that this is all of course better because it make you want to help. This is the pioneer of movement that the DPM want to be able to brought. So the seeing good in others and ourselves does not always produce good output in terms of action, and we have clarified this very early on within the debate. This always come at the expense of blindness in seeing our lackness and personal safety, especially in context of living. That is very, very hard agreed upon by the entire speaker of affirmative. But second, the good output are very reliant on having met the correct context of actual good people. They say that this can happen because more people will believe, but believing and practicing are not the same, and we have clarified this as well. Especially we prove in first and second negative to how uncertain human and context of the world is, and there's no more response regarding this as beyond just saying that this is something that is possible. But our case as well are also more important because we have proof whether the strength and the improvement can access on other value. We talk about the constant consequences that you have to face practically and emotionally, and both have been very watered down by affirmative with responding by saying that assessment can exist on their side, anticipation can exist on their side, but they cannot co-opt this benefit because it's borderline backclassing the prime minister point to begin with, that believe in the constant chances that should be given on others and believing beyond just what is proven, right? But even if it is not, I think that we have also proved toward the fact why is it exactly that this is not as exclusive in your side and more exclusive in ours, especially in the way that you're going to be able to drive this from the excess of cynicism or the excesses of lack of humanity. But lastly, I think that when it comes to the second point on helping and the idea of movement, their changes very reliance on incorporating with the sources of problem as it generally rises the good in others. We don't have that problem because we prove that the entire movement, feminism, LGBTQIA+, are pinnacle from the excesses of distrust with other people, with your oppressor, and that should not be interchanged, and that should not be watered down with the excesses of believing that your oppressor one day can change. Lastly, I believe that we should win just by the sheer fact that Grace has illustrated very beautifully within the debate to how the case should look like and whether or not that would be, viable within the concept of humanity and whether it's good or bad. More than proud to oppose.
All right, thank you very much. Negative reply. And to close the overall debate, affirmative reply, please. Here.
Hey, last checking, if I'm audible and visible.
Yes, to both.
Awesome. Sort of echoing Kaja's remarks, this has been a wonderful run. This has been a wonderful grand final filled with 4 amazing negative speeches as well. Just want to say that because this is going to be my last competitive speech ever, it's been a fun run. And yeah, this has been a very, very fun way to end everything. Starting in 3, 2, 1. At the end of the day, the debate can be simplified into just one question. Should you believe that others can be good? Here's the thing. If my seniors did not believe in me after I failed so many times and made so many mistakes, I would not have been so adamant that I need to reward that faith back. This is what led to me being a better person. This is what led to me to keep pushing no matter how many semifinals I lost, to the point where I can say now that I've spoken in the grand finals of Asia, Worlds, and now IVED. Why is that faith important? Because this faith exists within the way that you interact with others, as well as the way that others perceive themselves after being the recipient of that faith. 3 tipping points. Number 1, principally, this is the right of the people to just experience how beautiful life is, because they deserve to see the good in people instead of being victims of a society that tells them how they should perceive others or limits you to a viewpoint of pragmatism so that you don't do good when you don't believe it should be beneficial for you. But secondly, practically, I think this is also the likelihood of why people will benefit much better, because you have to have an incentive to do good, even if it does not make sense. And this is why pragmatism cannot be the main motivation. Because yes, you can be pragmatic, but then you only do good when it makes sense to you. On our side, you are pragmatically beneficial in the sense that because you have faith that that others can be good, because you have faith that others can have empathy and just inherently not do bad things, you give them that chance. But thirdly, even in the long term, on things like social movements, criminal justice system, etc., exactly, you make the active effort because you know that those people are victims of their circumstances and bigoted mindsets, so that you believe that in the future there is a possibility where they accept you for your identity and who you are. So at the end of the day, it is worth the fight, so you make the active effort. If negatives cases that you see people on the capacity to do bad, we believe that you should be judged on the effort you make to do good. And this is why our points of prejudice matter, because it does not always have to resort to racism, but it can also manifest in simply not giving poor people a chance because you believe them to be lower in society, because you believe that they're poor because you're lazy, etc. On their side, you don't even stop to look in their direction if it does not benefit you. We question why things have to benefit things you. We think question why it has to actually benefit you first before you are good, because this mindset on negative is much more of a victim blaming mindset where you fault people for not being good instead of realizing there are so many things that are out of their control that actually influence this. That is why you aggregate a much better definition of humanity on our side, because negative has not explained the dynamic of how people interact and why that pragmatism is what actually leads to a better definition of humanity. Because if they say that, oh, societal norms and religion is what makes people good, then A, it's not exclusive either, and B, how then does cynicism actually influence you to interact with one another? What changes is the perception before you interact, and how that changes your eventual outcome of the interaction. When negative does not even realize that this is the purpose of the debate, this is where their case also falls. On our side, because you believe that people can be better, you make that active effort. But okay, in third negative, Kak Grace challenges that because not everyone can be gentle, so it's actively harmful. I think ignoring the new matter aside, we think that this is something that is fine, because at the end of the day, the weighing is on risk. On negative, it is much riskier for you to believe in people, so you end up not doing so out of fear and prejudice. On affirmative, you are taught that because people can be good, it is actually worth taking that leap of faith. Social movements is an example of this, but even in the worst case scenario, this is why that hope creates a higher likelihood of a much better societal interaction. Renee proves that this is the mindset on negative, and that's what leads to why people will not go out of their way for anything, not contributing to society and keeping to themselves in fear. We think that you should not deny these people the potential of benefit just because they are victims of that mindset. We believe that you can not only be better, but you are inherently someone that deserves a chance to prove that. Because of that incentive, continuously proud to affirm and speak in the finals.
Right. Thank you very much, speaker, for those very fine remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, that is the end of the grand final debate. So thank you very much, all speakers, for an excellent round. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hereby close this round. The judges will retire to the judge deliberation room. So we'll meet there. See you all in the closing ceremony. Thank you.